Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Fish quantity in the Sultanate decline, causing price hike as demand increases. Iraqi parliament fails on naming a new speaker, and security forces press a counter-offensive against Tikrit. And Turkey's ruling party nominates Prime Minister Erdogan to run in the first directly elected presidential race in August. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of condolences to custodian of the two holy mosques, King Abdullah bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on the death of His Highness Prince Khalid bin Turki bin Abdul Aziz bin Turki Al Saud. His Excellency General Sultan bin Mohammed Al Nu'mani, Minister of Royal Office, received in his office today His Excellency Mu'tab Al Zaban, Ambassador of Jordan, accredited to the Sultanate, to bid him farewell at the end of his mission. Ambassador expressed his pride and gratitude to the care given by all officials in the Sultanate. The Minister of the Royal Office thanked the Ambassador for the efforts he exerted to enhance existing bilateral relations between the Sultanate and Jordan. Fish markets in the Sultanate witnessed a decrease in quantity, leading to a price hike as demand increases. As usually known, quantity of fish declines during summer season, in addition to the fact that fishermen do not go for fishing a lot during the holy month of Ramadan. Fish wholesale market in Al Fulaj, which was opened recently, is expected to organize the marketing of fish in various governorates of the Sultanate. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth has prepared early to provide frozen fish to market outlets, supported by the Ministry and fish markets in the wilayas. However, prices continue to rise annually with the increase in demand. The activities of Message of Islam exhibition commenced at Foz do Iguaçu in Brazil. The inauguration ceremony was presided over by Rainier Ribeira, mayor of the city, in the presence of His Excellency Dr. Khalid bin Said Al Jaradi, Sultanate's ambassador accredited to Brazil, and a host of members of parliament, media men, university students, and representatives of Arab and Islamic communities. The attendees praised this initiative by the Sultanate that will help Brazilians to understand Islam and strengthen relations between them and other religions. Muscat Securities Market MSM General Index added 12.18 points, comprising a rise by 0.17% to close at 7,020.4 points. The trading value today stood at 5.21 million Omani Riyals, comprising a decline by 66.9% compared to the last session, which stood at 15.75 million Omani Riyals. The report released by MSM pointed that the market value rose by 0.18% to reach about 14.94 billion Omani Riyals. The report added that the value of shares bought by non-Omani investors reached 679,000, comprising 13.04%. The value of shares sold by non-Omani investors reached 953,000 Omani Riyals, comprising 18.31%. The net non-Omani investment fell by 5.27% to 274,000 Omani Riyals. Healthy food practices should be adopted by all during the holy month of Ramadan, especially chronic disease patients. Diet balance during the month of fasting is recommended by nutritionists. Chronic disease patients such as hypertension, diabetes, and cholesterol are prone to health problems during Ramadan as a result of not taking doses of their medicine properly. A campaign and an exhibition on the topic were organized by the Ministry of Health to answer all queries on taking medicines during the month of fasting and their impact on patients. Still to come in our news bulletin. Drones and GPS are all part of precision farming arsenal in the United States. The acting speaker of Iraq's newly elected parliament said no agreement had been reached on naming a new speaker and that the parliament now had no quorum. Lawmakers had taken a recess to discuss candidates for a speaker, and parliament convened with 255 deputies out of 328, but only 75 returned after the recess. Meanwhile, Iraqi forces pressed a counter-offensive against Tikrit, one of a string of towns and cities overrun by Islamic State-led fighters, in a swift advance that left more than 1,000 people dead, displaced hundreds of thousands, and piled pressure on Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. Turkey's ruling party today nominated Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan to run in Turkey's first directly elected presidential race in August, announcing his candidacy to thousands of cheering supporters. 60-year-old Erdogan has been in power since 2003, but is barred by internal party rules from running as Prime Minister again. The Turkish presidency is a largely symbolic post, but Erdogan has said he favors a system that gives the president more powers. He has suggested that, if elected, he would fully use latent presidential powers, including the right to call cabinet meetings. Erdogan's candidacy was announced by Mehmet Ali Sahin, a deputy chairman of the ruling Justice and Development Party, or AKP. It is the first time that Turks will vote directly for their president. Parliament chose presidents in the past. The two-round elections are set for August 10 and 24. Pakistan launched a ground offensive against militant strongholds near the Afghan border after evacuating nearly 500,000 people from the tribal region. The army said the ground offensive is the second phase of a long-awaited operation against militants in the North Waziristan tribal area, a lawless mountainous stretch of land in northwest Pakistan. Pakistan's military announced the operation on June 15, but has mostly limited its tactics to airstrikes while giving hundreds of thousands of people time to pack up their belongings and leave to safer areas. The U.S. has long pushed for such an operation to go after militants that use the area as a safe haven from which to attack targets in both Pakistan and Afghanistan. Rescuers today pulled out 3 survivors from the debris of a collapsed 11-story building in southern India, 3 days after the tragedy that left dozens of people dead. The emergency workers cheered and clapped as the survivors, 2 men and a woman, were pulled out alive from the rubble. 29 people were confirmed to have died, and that 26 people had been rescued alive. Rescue workers could still hear voices from the rubble, and that operations were continuing to save them. The building collapsed on Saturday night while in the final stages of construction outside Chennai, the south coast capital of Tamil Nadu state. Nearly 90 contract workers, most from neighboring Andhra Pradesh state, were believed to have been in the basement collecting wages. Police have arrested 6 construction company officials for alleged criminal negligence and violation of building codes. Aerial drones, infrared scanning, and cloud computing aren't the first things you'd associate with farming, but they're all among the technologies being used on the cutting edge of U.S. agriculture. Here is a report.
At first glance, Little Bohemia Creek Farm in Maryland looks like it hasn't changed much in decades. But when it comes to the new trend of precision agriculture, it's leading the way. Sensors on this crop sprayer can monitor individual plants as they pass over them, using different wavelengths of light to see how healthy they are. From this, they work out the most efficient amount of fertilizer to use.
The nitrogen requirements vary throughout this field tremendously. Just the spot we're standing in, you can see how there's 2.5 foot tall corn and there's also 1 foot tall corn. So as the sensor picks up the different reflectance of light, it bases the nitrogen rate on that and applies different rates of nitrogen throughout the field.
Tests are still underway, but early estimates see savings of around 10% in fertilizer use, combined with bigger crop yields. Local environmentalists also hope the effort will reduce the amount of fertilizer running into the sensitive Chesapeake Bay.
When you get excess nutrients in the bay, it can cause pollution and algae blooms and certain things that cause dead zones in the bay. And so the goal is to help balance the nutrient load out so we can grow our crops and still have a healthy bay.
Such precision technologies can also be seen in the latest combine harvesters. These huge machines harvest up to 50 tons of wheat per hour. They've got a GPS system that can steer more accurately than a human driver, reducing overlap between rows and therefore costs. As well as barley, each combine collects a huge amount of data.
This tells us how many acres an hour we've averaged while harvesting, how many pounds we've harvested from this field, and it's mapping the yields in bushels per acre.
This allows farmers to see how productive a field is almost down to the square metre. The data produced can be uploaded online, allowing a farmer to manage all of this information on a website.
All his equipment's there, all his farm and field information's there. You know, a large equipment owner with multiple pieces, he can actually manage it all from the desk. He can see it all.
There is another way to collect this kind of data, of course, by taking to the skies. The University of Illinois is among organizations researching the use of drones in farming.
They're not going to replace on-the-ground person walking out across the fields, but they will let that person cover a lot more territory. We're also looking at the use of multispectral imagery and infrared imagery so that we can look for areas of crop stress that we may not be able to see with the naked eye.
For now, US air traffic rules make widespread drone use impossible. But many high-tech farmers are hoping these new eyes in the sky won't stay grounded for long.
Here are Ramadan times for tomorrow. Fajr prayers will be at 3:57 a.m. and Maghrib prayers will be at 7:03 p.m. Now for the general weather forecast. Cloudy to partly cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and nearby mountains, with chances of intermittent drizzle. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear to partly cloudy skies with chances of rainfall over parts of the Hajar Mountains. Winds will be southwesterly moderate along the coast of the Arabian Sea, while it will be southeasterly light to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coastal areas of Arabian Sea will be rough with a maximum wave height of 4 meters, and along the rest of the Sultanate's coast it will be slight to moderate with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Fish quantity in the Sultanate decline, causing price hike as demand increases. Iraqi parliament fails on naming a new speaker and security forces press a counter-offensive against Tikrit. And Turkey's ruling party nominates Prime Minister Erdogan to run in the first directly elected presidential race in August. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.